Hello, Tom Lavecchia here with the latest edition of the New Theory podcast. Yesterday was a fun podcast, a special podcast. We had Dan Henry on, and one thing I liked about the podcast was he gave it some context on how to grow your business, how to charge more, and for the most part, how to get clients. But today's guest is as special, if not even more specialer, if that's a word. His name is Jordan Mederich.
Yep, Mederich. Okay, I could be saying it wrong. Hey,
and somebody always, and he just told me like a second ago, and AKA Jordo, which is easy to remember. And he is the founder of dropfunnels.com. And now we're going to kind of get a little bit more tactical because I'm like an old school guy. And I was having a conversation this morning with my business partner, Mike, and it's not working. So Jordo, welcome to the New Theory podcast. How you doing today?
Very glad to be here. Thanks for bringing me on.
All right. So first, what is Drop Funnels?
So yeah, I guess the long and short of it is, really recognizing that in the marketplace there is a lack of platforms. That there's not a lack of platforms, but there's a lack of a singular platform that gives you everything you need to truly win at the levels of Fortune 500, 100 companies.
No.
All based on infrastructure. So like that's a super short end of it. Drop Funnels is an all-in-one sales funnel, course building, membership site, website, blog, marketing infrastructure, but it's built on WordPress, an entirely self-hosted WordPress infrastructure, so that your funnels are insanely fast, highest possible conversion rates as it relates to speed. It's the only infrastructure that can actually rank in Google in the way that WordPress can. So your sales funnels can actually rank.
Oh, wait a second. That's kind of a big deal.
It's huge. And there's several pieces to this. So happy to like just let me know where you want to unpack first. But
wait, hold on, Jordan. So okay. Now, okay. So some of us are older on here. I'm an old guy. Funnels, I know we're mostly entrepreneurs, business people, but for some people, funnels is basically, well, let you
sure.
Give your definition of what a funnel is.
Yeah, so sales funnels have been around for over 100 years, since like the late 1800s. They've been around. They've only been popularized recently, but a sales funnel is effectively the exact path that someone goes through from being an unaware, oblivious person to being your absolute highest converting buyer and raving fan for life. That is a sales funnel.
Yeah.
The comparison is
Jordan, that was good.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Shit. So it took me 20 minutes to answer that.
Yeah. So the thing about where a lot of people go wrong, a lot of businesses, if they say, hey, I want to market digitally, I want to have a digital marketing business, they end up building a website and a blog and a YouTube audience and a Twitter and all these things that are cute and nice, but I call it professional procrastination, where really a website, the intent is very different than what a sales funnel is intended for. Right. A website is, imagine a kind of a hose, a garden hose, and there's just holes stabbed all over it. You put in water and people it just like leaks all over the place. When you've got links up in your header, you've got social share stuff, you've got a million navigation points where people can go, and you're just losing money, period. It's just across the board losing money. Because when people don't know what to do, they do nothing.
That's true.
So we even find that if you give 2 options on a page, your conversions are less than half as if you gave one option on a page. So a sales funnel only gives one option, and that only option is either to move on to the next step of the funnel or just disappear. However, when you eliminate the choice and you guide a user to what they want to buy anyway, a digital marketing sales funnel is intended to do that automatically, to push people from being unaware of what you're doing to being aware of who you are, what you offer, how it solves their problems, and ultimately buying on autopilot, as the gurus call it.
Now, if I come to one of your landing pages on whether it's just on WordPress or whatever, and it's not captured, there's retargeting, there's software that will capture if they opted on a network, or you know what, you're not interested, I don't want you. Where do you land on that?
You mean in terms of like,
so somebody doesn't subscribe or go through the call to action and they bounce, right? And historically, as a digital marketer, we're like, well, you don't want to do business with us, we'll leave you alone. Or we'll use like I'll talk about the resources. We'll use AdRoll and retarget you, or we'll use getemails.com and we'll capture your email if you're opted in. I know I mean, it's legit. Some people don't like it, but that's kind of what we do. Do you, for the person that bounces, what does drop funnels do? Or your philosophy is if you bounce, you're not interested.
So I'll take one layer deeper
Yeah,
on
please.
that and say that fundamentally the foundation of your business and your digital marketing infrastructure is more critical than your retargeting infrastructure. And here's what I mean by that.
Okay.
If you go to dropfunnels.com, for example, it is a site, but it's also a sales funnel. If you see all the navigation up top, all it does is either scroll down the page or send you into the funnel. That's the only point. There's no like crazy social stuff. There's not lots of other things that you can do and explore. There's none of that. It feels like a site. So people get there and they expect it, but it has an extremely high conversion rate because we make it feel like that, but with the intentionality of a sales funnel. So a lot of the retargeting tools and all the, like get emails and all these tools that are out there really do help to solve the problem of what happens if someone comes and they don't do anything. I would purport that if you just steward the asset that you have in the best way possible, you wouldn't need to invest so much into retargeting or invest in getting emails from people that are dropping off. You wouldn't have to do so much on chasing them if you were to capture them immediately.
Because you're targeting better on the top of the waterfall. So when they kind of jump in the waterfall or the pool, they're kind of like qualified, they're found in a better way, and you did a little bit of upfront work. So that's hence a higher conversion than casting a wider net for awareness.
So yeah, and there's two big reasons that people fall off pages, right? Technically speaking.
Yeah.
One is the page doesn't operate like a funnel. It doesn't give them anywhere to go. So they get lost, confused. And if they have options, like I mentioned, they do nothing. That's the number one thing. In fact, if anyone who comes to me and says, hey, how do we fix our infrastructure? And I look at their site, I say, wipe everything out and you get to point them one place. That's it. That's your only option. What's the number one thing you want them to do? Everything else is a distraction. So that's the first thing, is getting your site and all of your properties to operate in the psychology of a sales funnel. Yeah. The two, which is a little bit more technical, is actually the page speed in which it's loading on a browser. So, there's a lot of sales funnel builders out there, but WordPress happens to be the most popular, infrastructure on the planet. Powers 34% of the entire internet. Very fast, very scalable. It's quite technical in its roots, and so we've really simplified that. But what you'll find is that if your pages load at any more than about 3 seconds, you are losing money, period. Google found that for every 100 milliseconds of latency, they'll lose up to a 10% conversion. So if you're running Facebook ads to your site and that site doesn't capture people to move them into the funnel, you're going to lose people. Yeah. But even when you solve that, the other half of the coin is how quickly does it load? Because we're so used to, we're all Prime members. We all want our shipping in 2 days. We want our movies instantly, our music instantly. We want our web pages to load instantly. So you'll find that when you can deliver your pages in less than 3 seconds, your conversions will skyrocket. So these two things in tandem, and it's all an infrastructure thing. If it's not which sales funnel builder are you on, it's are you on WordPress or not?
Wow. Okay. So I'm interested. Okay. I'm listening. I'm interested. I have 2 questions. Question number 1 is, do I build it? I'm making this up. I own tom.com, right? Do I build it into my current URL, or do I create a separate URL website for this?
Yeah. So there's different, I would answer that with like a prerequisite. If you've already got like a big WordPress infrastructure, you've got thousands of blog posts on and all that, there's no point really for you to move it from there to another WordPress infrastructure, right? Correct. So in that case, we say just create it on a subdomain where it'd be like course.tom.com. Yeah. Right. Would be, and then on your other old site, you would link to the funnel so that you can maximize the conversions of that traffic.
And you get the SEO juice because it's a subdomain. Now, like I happen to have a programmer, so I'm okay. Will you give me the code? I install it, or do you guys have a programmer who give you admin access?
So yeah, a lot of people, I'd say about 80% of people who come through our doors do not have tech teams, do not have programmers. And that's really why I made it. I was for years building WordPress sites and I didn't have programmers and tech and all that kind of stuff. And so it literally would take me 6 months to launch like a business on WordPress, because you have to be a designer, a coder, you need themes, plugins, updates, servers, hosting, tech, all of that. You bring it all together. And I was like, this is insane. This is like, this can't be how we're supposed to operate. So now I stripped away every technological issue that a person can face, all drag and drop. There's no hosting. We handle that. No servers. We handle that. No security issues as far as like doing updates on plugins or themes. We don't even let people install plugins and themes because it's a distraction. You can literally build visually anything you can imagine.
Yeah.
And removing that gets people into building sometimes entire businesses in a day in what used to take me 6 months.
I love it. So my next question is, I wear a few different hats, and I'm a publisher of 2 different websites, and we do use some resources to get emails. However, we have a physical print product. So here's where it gets interesting. Okay. Where we have a physical print product for one of the websites we would like to build a subscription base for, right? Where it gets tricky is it's non-rev. So like, even though we would love a lot more people on a subscription, it's to get more magazines to them to increase our subscription base. And then theoretically we'll eventually be able to sell ads for more because it's targeted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is no, it's okay. But is this for publishers as well? Does economics work where a publisher can use this to capture emails and addresses, even though it's non-rev, but build up your ecosystem? Or is this more for transactional products or services?
100%. Whether it's free, it's almost no matter what you're doing. If you're trying to grow your audience and your sales, it can help you there. The only thing we don't really like, we are not a Shopify competitor. It's not intended to be. In fact, it's quite the opposite. So for you, if you were to come to me and say, hey, Gerardo, build me mentally like the perfect sales funnel for that, right? So when people land on your site, immediately there'd be like the call to action buttons for them to become a free subscriber of that magazine, right? They click on that button, they come in, and maybe you give them like, even if you did, for example, lifetime access for $1, all it does is establish that they have a credit card. That's the only point. All right. And then from there, it's like, hey, you're going to get lifetime access to this. On the next page, do an upsell because you've collected their card, to do an upsell for, hey, we've got this course on XYZ. How you can do this.
Or merch or a guide or
merch is perfect. It's like any complimentary, supplementary product to that. And then maybe you can even add like a little order bump on there. So people are like, hey, I want to upgrade to the digital version as well. Give that to me for $7 for life or whatever, just to increase that. So you could do it for free, but I'd say like, if you're ever giving value, you should charge.
Agreed.
Like no matter what, anyone can afford $1, and it's such a resistance-free sale that, and when you collect that, there's a different intent of the relationship with the customer. As you know, you're like, a king of sales in your space, right? So you know that when someone whips out a card, there's something different about their relationship now.
That's right.
But I've established that they will buy more in the future.
That's right. And it's interesting because I wear, as a marketer, we have clients that come to us and they have to buy and sell. And people buy when the value exceeds the price. So that's all day long. And then as a publisher, even though it's ad sponsored, I tell my team, you should create content good enough that if we had 0 sponsors that you had to pay for, if they're not willing to buy it, then it's not good enough. So also comes in the content strategy. All right. I had high hopes. That's why I wanted to get you on. I'm probably actually going to set up a call to look at it for our organization. I very rarely say this online. I usually say afterwards, hey, let's chat. But let's chat. Get me excited. Throw us a use case or an example of.
Yeah. So, and maybe I can do that kind of globally so that all of your listeners can look through the lens and be like, all right, what do I do? Step 1, what's the most important thing? So we always say like, what is the offer? Like the offer is obviously key. And that's different for everyone. Traditionally, we've got a lot of coaches, consultants, experts, info marketers. If they're building courses, they have all that in there. But if you're saying, hey, if you're going to go kind of like the Agora route, right? You're selling information, you're a publisher, and you really leverage either both paid direct to consumer or that high intent of, now that people are paying for this, public like advertisers are far more likely to want to advertise with you because those people have cards, right? They've proven that they have cards, right?
Yeah.
So if we say that's the offer, to build that infrastructure, the number one thing you'd want to do is to build that funnel. It'd be the very first thing, is to build your sales infrastructure first. Not big audiences on YouTube and you have to build a big list and you have to make Facebook pages and run ads and do all that stuff. We say, no, forget that. Almost everyone on the planet has enough of a warm list, whether you've built it already or not, or recognize it or not,
Yeah.
to substantiate probably an average of 10 to 30K in initial sales, right?
Yeah.
Just to get some initial cash flow going.
Correct.
And that sales funnel infrastructure is the first thing. So number one, build that infrastructure, just the sales funnel itself. Two, launch that and validate that to your warm market list, because those are the people who already know you, and it's a resistance-free sale. It's so simple to do.
Yeah.
And if they haven't been given the opportunity to give us money yet, we haven't invited them to do that. Mike Dillard is a good friend of mine, for example, and he just set up a brand new offer to his list, and I think he made close to $1 million on just a launch directly to his list. That's the power of taking it to the people who already know you.
Wow.
So step one is build the minimum viable sales funnel. No big sites or blogs or any of that.
Yeah.
Two, validate it to your warm list. Three, take that initial cash flow, and that's when you can continue to run more automated traffic to scale the organization to that sales funnel. So you're automating what you just did. And then four would be to build your primary site, your blogs, all these other amplifiers that can help to push directly to the funnel. But it's like the opposite of what everyone else tells you to do. They say you need to have a site, you need to have all these things, and then you can go out and sell. If you start with the offer first, it's the complete opposite. And you don't need any of that. You only want to add those on top as an amplifier of getting more people to your offer.
Well, you also bring a good point, because there's like influencers now, and I'm getting more involved with YouTube, and I have 2 channels, and we're doing 150,000 streams a month on both, which is greater than my website traffic, and is greater than my social media. And I'm kind of saying to myself, it's scary to say, I don't want to put myself out of business, but do I need a website? Like, why do I have decentralized advocates and website being one, but all of it going into one funnel, which is the meat and potatoes, which is what we want to do, is get you to act. I mean, is that fair to say?
I would say that even your like, there's huge value to having a podcast audience, having a YouTube audience. Those are all, but they are amplifiers.
Correct.
In and of themselves, it's almost nothing unless we're doing something with that audience. Right?
Exactly. And I'm shocked there's like not a little buy now button on YouTube. I know Instagram has experimented, Facebook, but there's not. So there should, and also number 2 is, as a marketer, I want to know attribution. So like, if YouTube is working and SEO is not, then I'll double down on YouTube and versus, a website, and even Google Analytics, whether we like it or not, there's some limitations. Jordan, listen, I love it. First thing is going to do, we're going to set up a call for New Theory and New Jersey Digest, but how can we find it? I'm excited. How can we find it?
Yeah. So, we've got an incredible Facebook group, very active community. That's the other big thing that I found in tools need to have great support. So we invest, it's our number one highest expense in the business is in support. So we've got, based on what you want to do, there's like even live chat, very supportive Facebook group infrastructure, and also just tech support and that kind of thing. There's a free trial so people can give it a shot. It's not the world's easiest infrastructure to learn. There's a learning curve as with anything, but I'd say, like, if you learn the infrastructure, if you say, I'm going to dedicate myself to try this for a month and say, I'm going to really give it a go, you will never go back to anything else ever. And we see that when that light bulb moment goes off, like, wow, I have so much more speed and control over my business and my life now than I did before. That's life changing. So dropfunnels.com is obviously like the main site. People can kind of see how it is its own sales funnel. In fact, we might be the only infrastructure that actually uses our full page.
I was going to say, do you use DropFunnels for DropFunnels? So
we use DropFunnels to promote, just to sell DropFunnels. Yeah. So it's like everything we have there, everyone has access to.
Love it.
And whatnot. So, but the Facebook group's a great spot also to get live support, and we do live trainings and all that kind of stuff as well. So we try to go way above and beyond on the front end. Love it.
All right. I'm going to put a link below. Any codes or anything, or just you offer the same thing to everybody? Or
yeah, it's free to jump in and give it a shot. We've actually never done, we've gotten tons of requests, like AppSumo trying to get us on there for lifetime deals and discounts and partnerships. And we've just never done it.
You don't need it. You don't need it because you have DropFunnels.
Yeah, we don't we're fine. We don't need coupon codes, but I'd be happy to help anyone there. And just, I guess, kind of for your listeners here, I'm Jordan, Jordan at dropfunnels.com is my personal email. If someone's
that.
got a question or like, hey, how can we get this going? Would be happy to help.
Love it. Thanks so much, Jordo. And put a link below to dropfunnels.com. If you're listening for audio, iTunes, etc., don't forget to subscribe. But we'll also put a link below, and obviously on YouTube, the same there. And make sure you subscribe and put on your notifications.